His divine grace, AC Patudanta Shiva, Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivraja, Vishnu Shukta Shi Shiman, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki, Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Shrimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to the simple devotees, all glories to Shri Guru, all glories to Ranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Bande Hum Shri Guru Shri Taparakam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Guru Ram Satam Saharam Tam Tam Siddham Sadhaitam Sadhutam Bharata Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahakana Vita Shri Shankam Nama Om Vishnu Budaya Krishna Shaya Dudalation Day Pati Vikasa Swami Navani Nama Om Vishnu Budaya Krishna Shaya Dudalation Day Pati Vikasa Swami Navani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pujarne Nirvasa Sisini Bhari Pasa Chita Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhattacharya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today is the auspicious day of Sri Shita Thakurani's appearance day. This is an abbreviated class, so I'm gonna have to give a brief synopsis. But pretty much, if those who don't know, she's the eternal consort of Shri Advaita Acharya. And she should actually be worshipped just as much as Sachi Devi herself, as a mother of the universe. And like some keep it brief, but according to the Guru Gandodesha Deepika, she is Yoga Maya. Yeah, that was pretty interesting when I read that. She's Yoga Maya herself. And in Krishna Leela, she actually appeared as the mother of Sandipani Muni as Purnamashi. And she was present on the day of Lord Chaitanya's appearance in this world. I believe on that day, she offered auspicious gifts to him. I think she also blessed him, and she blessed him to name Imai, actually. So from that day on, when Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world, she would every day go and actually visit him. She would actually teach Sachi Mata how to care for him because she was senior to her. And actually, so her and Sachi Mata, they had a very affectionate, motherly affection for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And she would always cook lunch for him. She would do so many, nice services for him. So, like I said, she's a very important figure in Chaitanya Leela. She cared for Lord Chaitanya when he was a baby, so we should honor her. So, that's as much I'm going to say about that. And let's get into the Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
So we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 4. It's text 2. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go for the word for word. Okay. Tesham
Maireya Doshina Vishamikrita Shetasham Nimlochati Ravao Ashit Venunam Eva Mardanam Tesham Maria Doshina Vishamikrita Chetasam Nimlochati Ravav. Oh, sorry. Nimlo Chati Ravav. Oh, in this it doesn't have that. It doesn't have Asi? Nah. It's weird, huh? Well, I can actually read it. That's weird. It's missing it's missing a Sanskrit. I can read from my phone actually, or I could do this. Sorry, let me just pull it up on my phone. That's weird. Yeah, I was like, sorry about that. Okay. Sorry, I'll just pull it up on my phone. Okay, so I'll just start from them again. Tesham Maria Doshina Vishami Krita Chetasam Nimlo Chati Ravav Ashit Venunam Eva Mardanam Tesham Maria Doshina Vishami Krita Chetasam Nimlo Chati Ravav Ashit Venunam Eva Mardanam Tesham Maria Doshina Vishami Krita Chetasam Nimlo Chati Ravav Ashit Venunam Eva Mardanam. Please repeat. Teshamayena Doshena Vishamikrita Chetasam Nimlo Chati Vavavashid Venunam Eva Mardanam. Teshamayena Doshena Vishamikrita Chetasam Nimlo Chati Vavavasid Venunam Eva Mardanam. That's weird. Vishamikrita Doshina Chetasam Vinolati Vavavasid Venunam Eva Mardanam. Tesham Arena Doshina Teshasam Nimlo Lachiti Vavavashid Venunam Eva Mardanam. Mataji. Tesham Arena Doshina Vishamikrita Chetasam Nimlo Chati Vavavashid Venunam Eva Mardanam. Okay. Let's go for the word for word. Tesham, of them. Maria, of intoxication. Doshina, by the faults. Vishamikrita, became unbalanced. Chetasam, of those of whom the minds. Nimlochati, sets. Raval, the sun. Ashit, takes place. Venunam, of the bamboos. Eva, as. Mardanam, destruction. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. As by the friction of bamboos destruction takes place, so also at sunset, by the interaction of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place. Purport. When there is a need of fire in the forest, by the will of the Supreme, it takes place due to the friction among the bamboos. Similarly, the descendants of the Yadu were all destroyed by the will of the Lord by the process of self-destruction. Just as there is no possibility of a fire occurring deep in the forest due to human effort, so also there is no power in the universe which could vanquish the descendants of the Yadu who were protected by the Lord. The Lord wanted them to be so destroyed, and thus they obeyed his order, as indicated by the word tat anuyata. So I already chanted my prayers. So like I said, we're reading Canto 3, Chapter 4, text number 2. Just a little background. So this is pretty much the winding up of Krishna's pastimes. Mitravan, in his last class, he spoke of how the Yadus, they were intoxicated and they ended up killing off each other. But we should understand that actually them getting intoxicated and also the Brahmana's curse, this is all pretext for the will of the Lord, actually. Krishna wanted them to go back to their respective abodes. The Brahmana's curse actually just pretext. They didn't get destroyed by the curse. It was under Krishna's will. And the Yadus were so powerful that nobody can conquer them. Even the demigods couldn't conquer them. So that's why Krishna wanted them to go back to his abode, because he knew that after, when he left, they would feel that burden of separation. And I think Giri gave that class. He was saying that the burden of the earth would be burdened because of the feelings of separation by the Yadus. So to get into the point of this class, there's two things I want to talk about. If you look in the first sentence of the purport, Prabhupada says that when there is a need, can you turn the volume down on this a little bit? Prabhupada says when there's a need of fire in the forest. And this is interesting, because you would never think you would need a fire to take place in the forest. But if you think about it, destruction isn't always a bad thing, actually. So when there's a forest fire, I was doing some research. Actually, it's actually good for the environment, because what happens is this ash comes and it actually replenishes the soil. And by it being replenished the soil, new nutrients are actually brought out and new organisms can thrive in it. So forest fires aren't actually always a bad thing, especially like Prabhupada says, when there's a need of fire. When there's a need of it, Krishna, he does it. Like it says, no man in the forest, no person starts it. It's just by the interaction of Krishna's potencies. So that's the point I kind of want to talk about, that destruction isn't necessarily a bad thing, because destruction by Krishna is actually for our benefit. And there's so many examples. Hiranyakashipu, he was destroyed. It was for the benefit of us, for his devotees. He destroyed Hiranyakashipu. Similarly, Chitraketu, he destroyed his son. He was Chitraketu. He was lamenting because he couldn't have his son. And when he finally had his son, the son was killed. But it's for the benefit of Chitraketu, because he learned that he shouldn't be attached to this body. So Krishna arranged that for his benefit and our benefit also, so we can learn from this example. We shouldn't be attached to the material concept of life. So like I said, destruction isn't necessarily a bad thing. And when Krishna destroys, the result is actually always good for both the devotees and the non-devotees. for both, because everything by the hand of Krishna is pure, is purifying. I remember I was listening. I think it was a lecture or a memory. You know, Srila Prabhupada, when he first came to America, he was preaching amongst the hippies, and he pretty much, it was like the war of Vietnam was going on, and he said, well, the reason why they're being sent to Vietnam, they're being slaughtered because they're slaughtering so many animals in the United States. And so many people were shocked by this because, you know, this is a big movement. But Prabhupada was bold. He was like, no, this is actually, you know, it's by the will of Krishna that they're being slaughtered. And it's actually for their benefit, because by the reaction of their karma, it's actually good that they, you know, get that result instead of suffering lifetime after lifetime. So, like I said, by the will of Krishna, both devotees and non-devotees are benefited by Krishna's instruction. And it's interesting because Krishna's instruction is actually imperceptible. We can't actually always see Krishna's instruction. For example, our bodies are always changing. We do not see our bodies aging. It's imperceptible. Just how we were in a young boy's body or one young lady's body, whatever, and then over time we get older, we don't actually notice it until a couple years down the line. So Krishna's his instruction is imperceptible. Similarly, when the Yadus were left the planet, when they got intoxicated and killed each other off, if you don't have the proper vision, you know, it's imperceptible to see that Krishna, he's involved in this. You would think, oh, just the Brahma's curse or these Yadus are just getting intoxicated. But no, actually, like I said, when Krishna destroys, it's imperceptible. We can't always notice it. And the thing about this material world is it's a place of destruction and cataclysms. And a lot of times we can't actually understand why these traumatic events are happening. It's because it's imperceptible. If we don't understand Krishna's will behind everything, then when these cataclysms happen, we can be bewildered. So one person when I went to London, it was this one, I guess you call him a devotee, but he was saying like, yeah, I could believe in Krishna sometimes, but why is it that people are dying in earthquakes? Why are all these Muslims dying in earthquakes? Why are bad things happening, but there's a God? You know, I mean, it's a valid question, actually. Why do good things happen to bad people? You know? But this is by the will of the Lord. Ultimately, everything's functioning under karma. So Krishna, he destroys both through his external energy and also internally through his own internal potency. But to his question, it's just a result of karma, actually. It's collective karma, individual karma. When you see mass destruction, it's typically because, you know, a certain people had a certain bad karma, and then, you know, by the will of Krishna, they were destroyed. So it's really hard to ascertain the cause of these traumatic events, actually. It's really hard, but nonetheless, Krishna actually, he puts his devotees in difficult situations for their benefit, actually. He puts his devotees in difficult situations so they can be eternally free from difficult situations. If you study the Pandavas, for example, they went through so many difficulties, got poisoned, fires, their house got burnt, almost got burnt to ashes. So many things happened to the Pandavas. And for aspiring devotees, you think, wow, you know, they're pure devotees, close associates of Krishna, but they're going through so many difficulties. You know, it's imperceptible. How can we understand this? How can you understand that when Krishna loves you, he puts you in more difficulties? You know, this principle is not so attractive to so many people because people come to God thinking that they're going to just supply them their daily bread, not put them in difficulties. But like I said, Krishna puts his devotees in difficulties so that they can be eternally free from difficulties. This world is a place of difficulties. So we have to struggle, actually. To be Krishna conscious is a struggle. If we're not struggling, we're in Maya. Actually, my Guru Maharaj says that. He said, even if, say, we're liberated, say we've controlled our mind, okay? You've controlled the mind, so you're free from struggling within yourself. If you're not struggling to help other people, you're in Maya. So, you know, Krishna consciousness is a struggle. It's always going to be a struggle as long as we're in this material world, because this material world is a place for struggle and destruction and cataclysms. So, like I said, it's hard to understand these imperceptible events such as the Yadus, but nonetheless, with purified vision, we can understand this. This Pashanti Gana Chakshushaha, this purified, you have to have eyes trained with knowledge to understand this. If you don't, you're going to be forced to speculate. So we need to get this purified vision. And where do we get this purified vision? When we sing it every morning. We get it from the Guru. The Guru gives us his Divya Gyan by following his instructions. So by following the instruction of the Guru, we get this divine knowledge, and we can understand Krishna's hand in everything. We can understand these imperceptible events taking place, but it's only by divine knowledge. Our mind doesn't have the capacity to understand these things. Only through divine knowledge we can understand it. Like, this whole pastime is bewildering. It's all bewildering. If we didn't have Srimad Bhagavatam, we would not understand what would take place. But because by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, his faithful followers, we understand what the will of the Lord is. But although I'm talking about destruction, we should understand there is no destruction in the process of a Krishna consciousness. There's no loss or diminution. Once you start on the path of Krishna consciousness, there's no destruction. Even while running with both eyes closed, you are guaranteed of success. Once you are on the path, even if you don't go back to Godhead this lifetime, you are guaranteed for success. This is Prabhupada's this is Prabhupada's actually instruction. He said this, and the words of the spiritual master they never go in vain. So, like I said, there's no destruction of the path of Krishna consciousness. Nevertheless, as devotees, like I said, destruction is not always a bad thing. We should actually pray to Krishna to destroy certain anarthas within us. One particular anartha I want to speak about is this separatist mentality. This idea of seeing the world separate from Krishna, because this is actually the cause of our suffering. When we see the world separate from Krishna, we are in Maya. Actually, there's a verse. Who's on this? Tapas, you on this? Can you go to Canto 3, text 29, verse number 9? This separatist mentality is delineated. Yeah, you go there. Yeah, so the worship of deities. Okay, so this is background. This is Kapila Dev speaking. He's talking about first preceding this. He was talking about like pure devotional service, and now he's talking about like devotional service mixed with the modes of material nature. And he says the worship of deities in the temple by separatists with the motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. Can you scroll down a little bit? Just a little bit. Something I want to. Yeah, so a separatist is one who sees his interests as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees or devotees of the mode of passion and ignorance think that the interest of the Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their own sense gratification. This is a separatist mentality. And can you go down to the last, I think it's like the last, keep going down. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so a pure devotee has no interest but to act on behalf of the Supreme Lord. When one has even a tinge of personal interest, his devotion is mixed with the three modes of material nature. This is interesting. Like I said, we should pray to Krishna to actually destroy this separatist mentality. We could be in devotional service, but we could be practicing under it. We could be practicing bhakti on the modes of material nature. This is very dangerous. Why? Because ultimately we're cultivating weeds. We're cultivating these material desires, and it could choke our creeper devotion. So we should pray to Krishna to destroy these anarthas. We don't even realize it sometimes. We don't even realize we're practicing devotional service in the mode of ignorance or passion. We don't even realize it. Like you said, you go out on books and I post my score. I want everybody to recognize me. I want everybody to see how many books I'm doing. This is a mode of passion. You went out with a pure desire to serve Krishna, but then ultimately it deteriorated to the mode of passion, devotional service in the mode of passion, because you're seeking for, like I said, fame, adoration. So even within Krishna consciousness, we have to be very, very cautious of these material desires, because you get covered over. There's this verse in the Bhagavad Gita in 3rd chapter. It was this Avritam Gana Etina Gani no Nitya Vairina Kama Rupina Konteya Dusparinana Linacha. So this Avritam, we covered over. So the nature of the soul is pure. But we get covered over by lust. And lust isn't always overt. It can be subtle too. Ultimately, everything, lust is based off of sex desire. But subtle lust is this desire for fame and adoration. And by that desire to have fame and adoration, this advertum, we get covered over. We get covered over, and when we get covered over, we start practicing devotional service under the modes of material nature. So, and what happens is when we get covered over this avartam, this dusparinana lina cha, that literally translates, so dusparinana lina cha, the fire that's never satisfied. We are literally burning in a fire of lust that can never be satisfied. No matter how much adoration we actually get, no matter how much wealth we actually get, no matter how much prestige within Christian consciousness we actually get, we will never be satisfied. We're burning. Deus Perina and Lina Cha. Nevertheless, we sing this every morning. Samsara Davanali Loka. The spiritual master, he comes to extinguish this forest fire for us. But we should follow his instructions. And it's interesting because I was reading the 11th canto, and this Hamsa avatar, it's funny, the four Kumaras, they pose a question to Lord Brahma, how to stop the interaction of the mind and sense objects. And Lord Brahma is the greatest personality in the universe. And he thought about it for a second, and he didn't even know. He was like, that's a good question. I don't know. So he summoned Krishna in the form of Hamsa avatar. It's funny. It's kind of like when they pose a question to him, Hamsa avatars, like, it was kind of funny. He was like, who are you? Who am I? Anyways, if you read it, you'll see what I'm saying. I don't want to get too much into that. But the point I'm making is they pose this question, how do you stop sense objects from entering the mind? And Hamsa Avatar gave a pretty interesting response. He said, actually, the material mind and sense objects are inextricably linked. You cannot actually separate the material mind from sense objects. It's interesting because although we're trying to stop the mind from meditating on sense objects, he says, it's inextricably linked. You can't do it. Not the material mind, but he says you can through intelligence. The intelligence is higher than the mind. So with purified intelligence, we can realize that we're spirit souls and we have nothing to do with this material world. The material mind, the nature of it is to meditate on sense objects. This Apurnamatala Pradishtam, although these material desires are coming to us, we should remain fixed in our intelligence. The process of Krishna consciousness is a purifier intelligence, actually. With purified intelligence, we can understand the nature of the world. We can understand the nature of the mind, and we can understand the nature of sense objects. But this purified intelligence comes through hearing, chanting, associating devotees. Not only that, it comes to the process naturally of bhakti, by practicing bhakti yoga. We don't, as practitioners of bhakti yoga, we're not trying to be intelligent. That's not our goal. Our goal is not to be intelligent in this society. Our goal is not to be, a scholar. This is actually a material desire. By practicing bhakti yoga, naturally, it's a byproduct. It comes like a maidservant. This intelligence comes, this wisdom comes, but we don't have to strive for it. So, like I said, by intelligence, we can understand the position of the spirit soul. And Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, he gives this lecture, recognizing one's conditioning. He in that lecture, he also makes the point that Hamsa Avatar is making, that when we're getting affected by material desires, just recognizing that the modes of material nature are acting upon us, we can subdue the effects of the modes of nature, which is pretty interesting. So, but you do that through intelligence. Those who are intelligent, they don't realize that they're being compelled by lust or ignorance. Okay, you don't know. Like these karmis, they don't realize that, they're going out, they're working hard, they're suffering, they're looking for sex, drugs, whatever. They're under the mode of passion. They don't realize that. But when we start feeling some desires coming within us, we should immediately stop it, recognize our conditioning. We should recognize that these are the modes of material nature acting upon us. This is not actually my real interest. My real interest is not to enjoy matter. In the first canto of Bhagavatam, Prabhupada makes, what does he say? He says, we should know the desires of the soul. The desires of the soul is to get out of the four corners of this material universe and go to the spiritual world. That's the desire of the soul. The desire of the soul is not to enjoy matter. The mind wants to enjoy matter. The soul doesn't. But through purifying intelligence, we can realize this. And I say that all to say that the separatist mentality comes, like I said, by not controlling the mind. And so we should pray to Krishna to destroy that. We should pray to Krishna to destroy this anartha, because we're trying to go back to Godhead. That is a goal. And if we don't recognize our conditioning, then we're going to be forced to keep coming back and back. Eventually we will, but why would we want to take another birth? We should stop it right now. So, okay, sorry, 8:17. So the second point I want to make is that it says that, in the purport, it says that the descendants of Yadu were all destroyed by the will of the Lord. By the will of the Lord. So this whole universe is actually functioning under the will of Krishna. It's all function of the will of Krishna. And we're actually all under the will of Krishna, either consciously or unconsciously. So unconsciously, we're on the will of Krishna. If we're not taking the process of Krishna consciousness, we are forced to accept bodies one after another. This is the will of Krishna, actually, because by taking repeated birth and death, we realize that this is suffering. There has to be more than life than taking birth and death. So this is the will of Krishna. Consciously, we can be on the will of Krishna by taking the process of Krishna consciousness and giving it to others. So one should learn how to discriminate between activities that are pleasing to Krishna and activities that are not pleasing to Krishna. Like I said, we could be in Krishna consciousness, but practicing on the modes of material nature. We think, oh yeah, Krishna, I really want a big donation. Okay, I really want a big donation. But you really, if you don't have the purified motive, okay, I want a big donation so I could, facilitate the Christian consciousness movement, then it's easy to deteriorate into a mixed bhakti yoga. So we should understand what actually is pleasing to Krishna and what's displeasing to him. And Krishna, as he says this in the Bhagavad Gita, this yoga karmashu koshalam. This is the art of work. Bhakti yoga is the art of yoga is the art of all work. Yoga is the art of all work. And actually, the end of all progress is Krishna, and we do it by yoga. Through yoga, we should strive for this yoga. Krishna tells Arjuna that we should strive for yoga, because yoga, by yoga, bhakti yoga specifically, we can please Krishna. But we should understand what is pleasing to Krishna and what's not pleasing to Krishna. And so the question also arises: what is the will of Krishna? What is the will of the Lord? What is the will of Krishna? I mean, it's very easy. It's very clearly said in the Bhagavad Gita. We should surrender unto him, and also how we surrender unto him is there. We should, everything we do, everything we say, everything we give in charity, it should be for the pleasure of Krishna. This is the will of Krishna. Okay, and it's funny because I remember I was reading the Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, and it's like the most confidential knowledge. I remember first reading, I'm like, wow, the most confident knowledge, this is it, like I'm about to get like the nectar, I don't know. I remember reading that, scan past it, and I was like, so what did I miss? What is the most confidential knowledge? You don't realize that, like, especially for me, when I first read it, I didn't realize that when we do everything for Krishna, everything we say, everything we do, this is the most confidential knowledge. But a materialist can't appreciate this. It's the most confident knowledge because Krishna is telling him how we can please him. God is telling you how we can please him. That's why it's the most confidential knowledge. And it's our duty to always be conscious of the will of Krishna. We should never forget the will of Krishna, especially if we're trying to cultivate pure devotional service. We should always understand the will of Krishna. And not only should we understand the will of Krishna, we should know who God is, God's abode, and the process of getting to that abode. For example, if you want to go to Hawaii, for example, okay, if you don't know how to get there, you might think, I could just drive to Hawaii. You can't drive to Hawaii, okay? Or say, you want to go to Hawaii, you have a plane ticket, but you don't know where it is. Okay, so you have a ticket, you know where to go, but you don't know the destination. So similarly with Bhakti Yoga, we should know the process, we should know who Krishna is, and we should know how to the process, who Krishna is, and the abode. And by understanding this, we can understand the will of Krishna better, actually. When we understand Krishna's abode, we can understand, okay, the reason why he wants us to always think of him, surrender unto him, because that's the nature of the inhabitants in Goloka Vrindavan. They are always conscious of him. They're always surrendering. Everything they do is for his pleasure. But we get pleasure from that, actually. Krishna's not a tyrant. He knows he wants us to do this because that's how we get pleasure. He's teaching us how to get pleasure, actually. So we should actually be captivated by this information. We should be captivated by the fact that Krishna is giving us a process to attain him. If we're not captivated by this information, we become captivated by the material information. We get captivated by the material energy. We should be captivated by this information. Prabhupada says that in one purport, actually. We should be captivated with this information. And what's not to be captivated about is beautiful. In the Science of Self-Realization, it's a chapter, Truth and Beauty. And the question, how can is truth and beauty, are they interrelated? Are they not? No. When you realize that Krishna is God, the truth is beautiful because Krishna is beautiful and he's the absolute truth. And that's captivating. And part of being captivated of this information actually is this vichar. Chandana always talks about this. We should contemplate this information. It's not that we read Bhagavatam or we read Bhagavad Gita and we forget everything. No, we should always contemplate. We should always be contemplating what we read and what we hear. If we don't, we will be captivated by material energy. Always, we should always. I think Parth had this. He changed his profile picture every other day. But I remember I read it one day. It was Prabhupada said like, he was saying like, it's actually better to read like a couple times, or like I think I don't want to like misquote. I'm gonna paraphrase, but Prabhupada was saying it's better to contemplate the information you read than to read every day and forget everything. Prabhupada says it's better to actually contemplate it. Why? Because when you contemplate it, what happens is it manifests in your action, in your speech. And when it manifests in your speech, it manifests in your actions. You can read everything every day, but if you're not contemplating it, then it's pretty much just like you're only doing it more so for like this mundane academic advancement. No, the point of Krishna consciousness is to be captivated by information, but we do it by contemplating it. The more we contemplate it, the more we become captivated by it. So yeah, we should be captivated by this information, and we should have this sankalpa to do whatever. This sankalpa, this is the determination. We should have this determination to do whatever is necessary to please Krishna and facilitate the Krishna consciousness movement. We should have this determination. And the thing is, as far as like the point of the will of the Lord, if we don't know the will of the Lord, then what happens is we're just functioning under the modes of material nature, even though we might call ourselves religious, but we're not actually coming to a platform of love of God if we don't know the will of Krishna. And if we don't know the will of Krishna, what's happening? So Krishna gives us independence. He doesn't force us to love him. He gives us independence to come to him. But actually, the cause of our suffering also is this misuse of independence. By misuse of independence, we're forced to create more activities for ourselves. This Karmanu Bandhini Manusha Loke. This is in the 15th chapter that the description of this banyan tree. You know, the description of this banyan tree. And this Karmanu Bandhini Manusha Loke. So we're all bound by our activities in the material world. And this banyan tree, it bounds us. It bounds us in ignorance. And the materialist is narupam ashesha tato, what's it? Yeah. So they can't understand. They can't see the spiritual. They can't see this tree. They cannot see the spiritual form. These spiritual activities. They can't understand this. They can't understand this. The form of Krishna. They can't understand the real essence of life because they don't know the will of the Lord. But as devotees, we know the will of the Lord. Why? Because Krishna descended and he gave us Bhagavad Gita. He told us what the will of the Lord. He very elaborately, explicitly gave us the will of the Lord. So, because he gave it to us, it is our duty to give it to others. Actually, in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, you are committing violence. If you have knowledge of how to liberate people, but you fail to do so, you are committing violence, either intentionally or negligently. So in the law, like you can have it's intentional crimes and you have negligent crimes. Intentional crimes like battery, for example, but negligent, you can get charged for the same. You can get the same punishment actually. So the elements of negligence are like duty, breach of duty, causation, and damages. Okay, so say somebody has a child and they see the child is drowning, so they have a special relationship. This is duty. This is a duty. Yeah, this is duty. What's it? So this is their duty. So when you have a duty, you have a special relationship. Under the element duty, you have a special relationship. So a mother has a special relationship with the child. So if a mother is negligent in saving the child, then she could be punished just as if she was a murderer. Because she was negligent. She had a special duty. She had a special relationship with the child. If you don't know the child and you don't save it, then the punishment is not so severe. Because you have a special relationship with the child, then the punishment is just as severe. Similarly, we have a duty to serve Krishna. We have a special relationship with Krishna because we understand the will of Krishna. So if we fail to give this knowledge to others, we are committing violence, either intentionally or negligently. And we cannot give it to others unless we're captivated ourselves. If we are not captivated by this information, how can we captivate others? How can we? I think like this lighter, for example, sometimes it gets wet. A way to actually, when the lighter's wet, you can't light it. Another way is to get another flame and light it. It's a little trick, probably not people know that. But you get another light and you can light it up, and it can light the other lighter. So similar with most of these people that covered like this Advertum, they're covered by the most ignorance. The water of ignorance has covered them. But we as devotees, we have some fire, the fire of knowledge. We should ignite it. We should help them. It is our duty to do so. If not, we are committing violence. So, like I was saying, the will of the Lord not only is for us to surrender unto Him, but Lord Chaitanya, He gave a prediction that in all towns and villages, there will be the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is the will of Krishna. This is the will of Lord Chaitanya, and we're just praying to be used as instruments for that purpose. And it's actually funny because I remember when I was on the way to New Taliban, I was in the airport, and I remember I was wearing dhoti to like whatever, and I was on Janmashtami, and I was thinking like, how many people know today's Janmashtami? How many people know that today God descended down? Because I was seeing everybody eating abominable food stuff. I'm like, how many people know we should be fasting today? You know? Even Indians. I saw Indians eating a burger. I was like, Prabhu, what are you doing? You're eating a burger on Janmashtami. This is ludicrous. What are you doing? So it's very interesting. It's like, somehow or other, we know Krishna. Well, we're trying to know Krishna. But we knew, those in this room, we know that on Janmashtami, that was his birthday. And so many people don't know. So many people don't know. And for that should be inspiring, actually. There's so much work to do in the Krishna consciousness movement. It's so much work that we have to do, like Vishnu Shri was saying in New Taliban. Like, Prabhupada left, it could be bewildering because, wants us to do so many things, but we don't have so many men to do it. It could be really bewildering, but it's funny, Vishnu Shri prayed to Prabhupada, and somehow we got a new person like the very next day. So the spiritual master, he's an ocean of mercy. We have faith in his teachings, and we at least have the endeavor to please him. Krishna reciprocates. Krishna will always reciprocate. But like I said, this path of bhakti, it's a struggle. It is a struggle. Nobody's going to doubt it's not. If you're not struggling, you're in Maya. If you're not struggling practicing Krishna consciousness, you are in Maya, sir. So we should struggle. We should go out. We distribute these books. We should understand the will of Krishna. We should convince others of the will of Krishna. Okay, it's 8:30, so I'm going to stop my class now. I can open up for any corrections, chastisements, or comments.
This in the last line of this purport, this word tad anugnata is mentioned. I was, remembering also what Mitravan Prabhu, you were speaking the other day, and about how they got permission from the Brahmanas. Yeah. And here Prabhupada reveals that the Brahmanas gave permission because it was the will of the Lord. And so I thought that was an interesting point to note, that the Brahmanas are supposed to represent the will of the Lord, and that their guidance has to be in accordance with that will. And otherwise that was an interesting thing. It's like, why would the Brahmanas give permission for this? It's like, so then Prabhupada, he reveals that here. So that was a...
I wanted to actually mention that but a little short on time. But yeah, I actually was going to talk about that.
Yeah, and I was, you were mentioning how with the intelligence, we have to know that our mind is getting carried away and we have to stop it. Sometimes the intelligence knows the mind is getting carried away and is unable to do anything.
Yeah, sure.
So what are we supposed to do?
Well, when that happens, I don't want to speculate, but the process of bhakti yoga is purifying in itself. Even when it knows the mind is getting carried away, what I typically do, I just take shelter more on the process of Krishna consciousness. That's the only thing you really can do. What else can you do? Because ultimately the process of Krishna consciousness is the reason why our intelligence isn't, our mind is carried away, the reason why it's not stopping it, because our intelligence is weak. Our intelligence still has it says that Krishna talks about the enemies, and he talks about lust comes in our mind and intelligence. So the reason why our intelligence isn't able to stop our mind, because our intelligence is still weak. So the only way to stop that is to strengthen our intelligence. The only way to strengthen our intelligence is the process of bhakti yoga.
Um, also, I mean, in this regard, you were mentioning about how even negligence is charged
Yeah.
crime, and just recently there's been a shooting
Yeah. So
in Georgia,
the mass shooting.
and mass
Yeah.
shooting, and in a school, and a kid, and his dad got him an AK-47 rifle as a Christmas present. So this is the condition of the society today. It's such a crazy society. This is what you give to your child for Christmas, and then anyways, the point is, it seems that it's a novel idea now, but when these kind of mass shootings are happening, they're trying to charge the parents.
Yeah.
And this is like, I don't know. I thought that was something normal. And news was saying that this is now a new thing that prosecutors are trying. Now, why is it new?
Well,
It's like,
well, because it's kind of hard to prove the elements of negligence. So they charge them on the negligence. Like I said, this breach of duty is the hardest part to prove. So you can prove duty, but this under breach of duty, you have to prove that like pretty much you breach a duty as a parent to the child. So like, I mean, it is
it has
legal.
to be as dumb as this that they have to like actually give an AK-47 rifle for Christmas.
Yeah, well, like
that's why the only reason they're able to charge them. Otherwise, otherwise it's not so obvious that
yeah.
there's a problem with the family.
Well, not only that, actually, it's so the law enforcement was actually, they were called before with this individual. I think he had made a threat to shoot at the school before, and they didn't do anything. And then now I think after further investigation, because before they were saying that like the student had guns from his dad, but they didn't do anything. So I think now because his dad's coming in the picture again, they're trying to like do something with it. But the point is, like you're saying, it's like with this whole negligence thing, like, I mean, I was just saying that all the point of the context of we're committing violence in society, even if we're not, we don't, it's not like, oh, I don't want to go out today. That's intentional, but it's be like, oh, I'm getting away with my duties, and you negligently fail to like help people. That was really the point I was making. I don't want to get too much in the weed. I can talk more about that.
And it's just, it's the thing is, in today's society, parents don't know how to raise kids either.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a really terrible situation. I mean, this kid, his mom was charged with so many crimes. I mean, it's such a horrible, broken family, and that's when I found that the statistics is that kids with these mass shootings, most of the minor perpetrators, the perpetrators who are minors, they generally come from very troubled families.
That's true.
And so it's like, but the society is not interested in fixing that root cause, and they keep going around, beating the bush. But
I mean, it's hard to fix the family structure, though. I mean, Gumaraj gave a lecture about this, Varna Sankara. It's really hard, actually, the way, especially now that this divorce is like, it's pretty common now. It's really hard to fix the family. But with like Varnashram Dharma, that's a means for the families to be fixed. Because the reason why they're not happy is because they're trying to live these materialistic lives without really wanting to raise a child, But when we have farm communities, we get them away from that idea of trying to enjoy this material world. It's a gradual process, though. But yeah, this broken family is a cause of so much chaos in society, actually. Yeah, you're right. Tapas.
Earlier in the class, you mentioned how like the Lord has different energies and it's all working out on the will of the Lord. I read in the other day, I read it in the Bhagavatam. It was like pretty cool. It said how like this whole world, like the atheists think that this whole world is running on its own, And it said that it's all ran by the energies, of course, by Krishna.
Yeah.
That it's running like as if it's like automatically, and that's like pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Because Krishna, I wanted to make that point in my class, actually, how Krishna actually inspires the atheists to be atheists. It's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's also in the Uddhava Gita. This, I mean the not the Uddhava Gita, the Shiva Gita, in the fourth canto. Rudra Gita. Yeah, Krishna says, Lord Shiva says, Pravritaya Nivritaya Pitudeva Karmane Namo Dharma Vipakaya Mitravedu Gadaya Cha. So this Privataya and Nivataya, Krishna gives inclination and disinclination for people's betterment or for their destruction. So for the atheists, he inspires them to be atheists because they want to see the world separate from Krishna. So he just destroys them through his external energy. So okay.
Vishnuchitra Prabhu, just one question, with the previous purport. So it's written that so the descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja family took permission from the Brahmanas and ate the prepared food stuff. So there is a full stop, and we start with a new sentence. And then Prabhupada writes that Kshatriyas are permitted to drink at certain occasions. So they all drank a kind of light liquor made of rice. So means my doubt is like, I don't think so the Brahmanas, they seek permission for liquor actually in this case.
No, and the translation is there.
Yeah, translation, sorry.
It said that they, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasad and also drank liquor made of rice.
Where is this?
In the translation, the verse itself.
Right? I mean, I guess it could be. But, I mean, the second purport that we just read explains that, because this, you see in the translation, it says, thereafter all of them, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook the remnants of prasad and also drank liquor made of rice.
Okay,
So, we could understand that they were only given permission for taking prasadam and then they also drank liquor. Or you can also say that both they were given permission for both.
Only both, because it's into the Sanskrit, it's saying bhuktava, pitava.
Yeah. So
So it's
the
together.
Sanskrit also says, bhuktva pitva. Says like, atatetat anugyata. Bhuktva pitva cha.
Cha.
Maru.
Yeah, so it's
Cha
both.
refers to and. So, but then that's why Prabhupada clarifies this in the next purport. That the Lord wanted them to be destroyed, and thus they obeyed his order, as indicated by the word Tadanugyata. But that Tadanugyata was actually given by the Brahmanas, not by Krishna directly. Because that Bhuktva Pitva Cha is there. It must be together. That's why I think it's a special occasion where they were given. I mean, as Prabhupada also explained in the previous purport, Kshatriyas are permitted. So that's also there. So the Brahmanas can give permission because Kshatriyas are permitted. But then they went crazy. And
Anything else? Maharaji?
Just relating to this, just a quick clarification, if I can get an answer. So these were the same Brahmanas who were cursing, those who gave the permission also? Or we don't
What's
know
your
that?
question? What is your question?
Were these the same Brahmanas who gave the curse, who gave the permission? I was just wondering.
Oh, I don't think so. Because the Brahmanas who gave the curse, that was like Narada Muni. So it was sages, but I remember it was like, this was different. This was like, these are different Brahmanas that gave the curse. Those Brahmanas, I think Narada Muni was among them though, because they offended Narada Muni and some other sages. These are a little different. These are the ones that are at, they're just Brahmanas, yeah.
All right. This one, that's the question.
So when you were talking about, like emphasizing, like how it's our duty to spread Krishna consciousness with others, I was reminded of, I can't remember exactly how it was retold, but basically in the second video of the Prabhupada Memories when they were in London, when devotee was talking about how he was so excited to tell Prabhupada that he was like, kind of like hell-bent on turning his brother into a devotee, and he thought that Prabhupada would be like so enthusiastic to hear. And when he actually told Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, that you need to save yourself. And so could you just like talk about like, you know, like this duty in relation to also, you know, like what's the extent, I guess you could say?
Actually, I have something on my phone. Hold on 1 second. I actually have something on my phone it's related to this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Prabhupada says in a letter in January 9th, 1973, that our real mission to deliver the world by preaching Krishna Our real mission to deliver the world by preaching Krishna's message to others, but even higher realization, the highest realization is to save oneself. So Prabhupada says that in 1973. So, I mean, that goes to the point I was saying before. Like, if you're not captivated yourself, then how can you captivate others? If you aren't saved yourself, then you can't save anybody else. Some devotees, they kind of get caught up in the mission and they're not reading. They kind of forget their chanting. I think in the early days they were doing that, but there's a little different Bob back then. But nowadays, Prabhupada is really, even Prabhupada said that also, his devotees are going out. He chastised them actually. He said, okay, you're going out to distribute my books, but you're not reading them. What's the point? So Prabhupada actually valued you saving yourself more than you saving others, actually. And this relates to our duty because, okay, duty is very complex. Ultimately, our spiritual duty is to save ourselves, okay? And we have spiritual duties and material duties, but the highest duty is, like Prabhupada was saying, is to save ourselves. And then once we save ourselves, then our duty is to save others. Okay. Go ahead. Go.
And like sending him, and his mom back and forth letters. And Prabhupada said like, maybe you should like just stop, like maybe like, at least tone it down a little bit. Cause he says, and he asks, he was like, why? And Prabhupada said maybe it's cause it's like, you get to choose who you want to give all your like attention to, like all your mercy, or quote unquote, mercy sent. So you can either give it all to like one person, or you get to like, try to like get so many other people in it.
Yeah, it's true. We should have proper discrimination. As far as when we preach, we should have proper discrimination.
You shouldn't waste your time with one person when you can like do it on so many other people.
Yeah, so that point can relate to not preaching.
But not wasting your time with Christians. Let me rephrase that. If a Christian's envious, there's no point of talking to him for hours on end. I used to fall into that trap, but it's no point. It's just you're just wasting your time. Actually, it's an offense. Actually, the intent offense is preaching to the envious. It's an offense to do so. Actually, I don't know Tamal Christian's mother. I'm not sure if she was envious or not. But I think the principle is there is that once you save yourself, don't waste your time trying to just preach to one person who's not really into it. Try to get to those the ripened fruit, the low bearing fruit. Those are the ones that we should try to go for. Actually. Okay. Hare Krishna. Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai.